Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to another edition of the Cozy Corner Crazies with your favorite crazy, of course, Chris G. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we want to welcome you and say, hey. Here we talk about the triangle of wellness and what we believe are the three components that are important and essential in our own walks to recovery and our own walks to healing, mind, body, and spirit. Now, if you've been following us for a little while now, we so appreciate you, so appreciate the love. Some of you have even contacted us via email directly, giving us your opinions, giving us your perspectives, and really just sharing beautiful testimonies and sharing your love. So we so appreciate you. We want to give you a special thanks. Now, if you want to contact us directly, you can do so at cozycornercrazies@gmail.com. Also, feel free to go ahead and post your comments down in the comment section. And a special shout out to Agape Movement, who has always made these transmissions possible. They have been our favorite partner. They have been our favorite ministry. And of course, we have been their favorite crazies. So special shout out to Agape Movement Ministry. You guys are amazing. Now here's the deal, guys. You know that we like to start with the disclaimer and let you know right off the bat and get real. We are not here to diagnose you, and we also don't encourage self-diagnosis. If you feel like you relate to any of these topics on a personal level, then you can go out and get a professional opinion. We so encourage counseling and support groups and whatever methods of accountability you feel like you need in your own walk of life. There's no shame in that, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Of course, today's topic is going to be one of those topics that's not really popular, people don't like to talk about, or they try to avoid and try to deny that it's even in existence. There's even some myths going around about it. People think they know something and they really don't, okay? That topic today we are calling acknowledging addiction. Now, there's a lot of different types of addictions out there. Today we'll just be focusing on, alcohol and drugs and things like that. But if you feel like this is something that is kind of turning on the light bulb, then go ahead and get yourself with a counselor, get yourself with a pastor if that's what you do, or if you want to go ahead and contact a helpline, which will be providing that resource for you today, then go ahead and do so. We want you to get the help that you need, and we are here to encourage and walk alongside you in that journey. Now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and start with a little short story of my own. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know right off the bat, I keeps it real. So I'm going to try to make sure that I share the imperative parts of the story as it relates to the topic on hand. But feel free to not judge me, okay? Because everybody has a thing and everybody does what it is that they do. And I'm no longer that person, but I have to acknowledge that I was that person. Just like you may not be in that walk of life anymore and you were in that part of life, or maybe you are, and you still feel like you're going to. That's okay too. We hope that this little tidbit that we have for you will be an encouragement, but also kind of get you going on that first step towards recovery and towards the healing that you so desire, if that is what you desire. In my own life, I started pretty normal, pretty young, just like anybody else. I think that I just like any other little girl, I wanted to grow up and be this or be that and have a career and get married and do all of these things that little girls want to do. I wouldn't say that I was completely out of the norm in my younger years. It wasn't until things started happening that caused trauma, all types of abuse, and you grow up and you start viewing the world through a different lens. That was my story. I grew up in a broken home, and it was just a lot of broken people trying to come together and do this thing called life, and nobody really gave them an instruction manual. You relating yet? Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that's a little bit more common now, especially with such brokenness in the world that is leading us. We've got all of these false advertisements and false senses of living and false sense of perfection, and the list goes on, and then we get messed up in the head. And so it's a completely normal thing. But it is also something that you can heal from, something that you can come out of if you have the right community, if you have the right accountability and the resources that you need to go along with life. But that wasn't my case when I was growing up in my youth. And as I got older and being able to take care of myself, it only got worse. So for me, it was the nightlife. Not necessarily clubbing and all of that. I came to find that later on in my years. Experimented a very short time of my life with that, and I wasn't really like a club person. What my thing was is that I was all about making money, right? So I came to Georgia when I was 17 years old, and very quickly found out what it was like to be an adult, pay your own bills and take care of yourself and have your own place and all of that good stuff, all that good jazz that we try to grow up and rush to get to. And then we get older and then we try to rush and turn back time. It's just a funny thing that happens in life. But for me, I had to grow up very fast and I had to learn what it was like to be on my own and try to manage school and work at the same time. Obviously, the first job wasn't cutting it with the bills and I had to go out and get a second job. For me, getting the second job, it was easy, like just I was all about making money and all about trying to take care of myself and making sure that I could be independent and not have to depend on anybody. And it was working for me for a little while. In this particular job, I was working as a bartender for several years. I actually had my 18th birthday in a hole-in-a-wall bar. They were very nice. They got me a cake and, shots, and that's how we got to do it. And so obviously started drinking at a young age, and that was my life. We literally got paid to drink. The more top of the shelves that we sold, the more money that we got and the more bottles and the more buckets and the more shots. And it was just all about the money. The more that you sold, the more money you made. And of course, these people, mostly men, obviously, that are drinking and having a good time with their friends, they want you to join in on the fun. And who's going to say no, right? I mean, you're young, you're making money, and you're just like, okay, I'm just having fun. And to me, this was a normal thing. So it started with drinking, and then I fell into a group of friends who they experimented with other things. They liked drugs of all colors. They liked the green ones. They liked the white ones. They liked the yellow ones. They just liked all types of colors. And I got introduced to that at a young age also. And so for me, the going needed to keep going. Working, 4-5 days out of the week at a bar, you're barely getting sleep, you're starting work early, you're finishing late, and then of course the only thing that you know after work for a personal life or a social life is finishing work and then going to other clubs and going to other bars so that you can have a sense of social existence, because all of my friends worked during the day while I was sleeping during the day, and then I made new friends at night who partied at night. So that's pretty much the gist of how that happened with me. And so I got introduced to a lot of interesting things that I became addicted to very quickly. There are still things in my life that I will never touch, and I will never hang out with people who do touch, because I just cannot go to that place of darkness again. And for me, it was not a place of hitting rock bottom. I never hit rock bottom until later on in my life. Some of you have heard some of the other stories and some of the other vlogs that I've talked about trying to commit suicide, and all of that stuff happened later on in my life. So in this particular season where I was experimenting with the alcohol and experimenting with the drugs, I was not yet at rock bottom. I was still taking care of myself, still paying the bills, never missed bills. I was just a hot mess in me, drinking and doing drugs and really believing that was the sense of life. Tell me if you're following me yet. It sounds familiar to you. Maybe it sounds familiar in a family member's life. Yeah, it was a crazy time for me. Even, after all of the hangovers and after all of the crashes from the drugs, it was still not enough for me to stop. And all of the things that I know now about medicine and all of the things that I know now about healing and recovery, those were not things that I knew then. Then it was all about making money and partying and being popular. And I was very known. I mean, I got to travel for work, go out of different states. I was in magazines. I was doing interviews. Like, there was a lot of stuff that happened in that scene that I would have never imagined in my entire existence that I would be a part of. And so part of it was the excitement and the adrenaline of being a part of that type of community. And so I loved it. At that time of my life, I thought rather, that I was living the life. And I came to find out very quickly that that was not the case, because the drugs started taking over. The alcohol started taking over, and all of that stuff just really made everything that I was going through already with trauma and the PTSD and the anxiety, it just made all of that stuff worse. And I didn't know that that was a factor. So the more depressed and anxious I felt, the more I felt like I needed to do that. Or when I was coming down, I didn't want to feel that feeling. So I just picked up another, and automatically the feeling went away because now my body is receiving the chemicals that it needs. And so it was just like a loop all day, every day. It went from only drinking and drugging at night to now I'm drinking and drugging during the day. Now I can't even go out to eat with my friends without doing a little something, something. And so I share that story because this is a lot of people's story. This is a lot of people's life now. And what we hope to accomplish throughout today's vlog is creating an awareness of the things that are happening in the world right around us and people don't even know it. And so we're going to start with the definition of what addiction actually means. This definition is coming to you from the American Society of Addiction Medicine, and they define addiction as a treatable chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual's life experiences. People with addiction use substances or engage in behaviors that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. I want to take a pause for a minute and just acknowledge addiction for a minute. This is something that people can't control, okay? This is not something, and we're going to get into this a little deeper in a minute, but this is not something that people could just stop. You can't just tell somebody, okay, well, why can't you just stop? Because it's not their reality. That's not how it works for them. These are genetic factors. These are neurological factors in the brain. They shift, they change, the wires are crossed. It's a complex thing that happens neurologically, and it's not something that they themselves even know that they're out of control for. So just really taking a moment and acknowledging that part of addiction. If you know somebody who's suffering with something like this, just love on them, okay? Because you never really know how much you can, how important you can make someone feel just by loving on them and letting them know that they're not alone and that they're not broken. This is something that is happening to them. It's not something that is them. You know, just really trying to love on people because you don't know what they're going through. And so I just want to acknowledge that and throw that out there just in case you were wondering what it is that you're supposed to do if in fact you want to help someone. And we can always go back to that old saying that goes, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Yeah, that's always the obvious choice if you really don't feel like you can say anything nice, okay? Now, I wanted to also cover some of the myths that we find and we hear throughout society and different people who clearly have never suffered with anything in their existence. And they just feel like they have an opinion about everything and they feel like they know everything and they just want to put it out there. There are some things that you can keep to yourself. Oh, okay. So these common myths are coming from we'reinthistogether.org or faceittogether.org. They are really big about letting people know that they are not alone in this. So this is faceittogether.org, and some of the common myths about addiction that they have are using drugs or alcohol is a choice. If someone gets addicted, it's their fault. Yeah, that's not really something that people choose. Okay, people don't just wake up one day and be like, I want to be an addict. I want to be an alcoholic. No, that's not how it happens, okay? Another myth. If someone just uses willpower, they should be able to stop. Again, stop. This is not something that has anything to do with willpower. Maybe in the beginning when they were choosing to do this, and this, but after a while, there is a chemical change that happens in the brain. And when the disease takes hold, these changes, okay, they basically corrode the brain. It makes the ability to make good decisions and being able to be logical, those are affected by the drugs. There are changes that happen in the brain. This is science. You can look it up. You know, I'm always saying that if you hear anything that sounds a little off, please feel free to go do your own research because you can read, right? Okay, moving on. Another another myth about addiction is that it mostly affects certain types of people. Addiction doesn't discriminate, okay? That's all I have to say about that. It can be anybody. You can be a rich person. You could be a poor person. You can come from a complete home. You can come from a broken home. It really doesn't matter. The addiction is going to choose however it wants to choose. Another myth, if someone has a stable job and a family life, they can't be suffering from addiction. So people who are successful can't suffer from addiction? Myth. People have to hit rock bottom before they can get well. That is simply not true, but it's also dangerous because when people hit rock bottom, let's face it, they're kind of in an unsafe place within themselves and unsafe for the environment around them. So really keeping in mind that the sooner one gets treatment, the easier it is for themselves and for the people around them. So really just trying to figure out who you are as a person and do you feel like you're chemically dependent on something, in which case you probably want to go ahead and get help as soon as you can. Another myth, going to get treatment will fix the problem. Addiction is considered a chronic disease, okay? So you can't just get one set of treatment or 10 steps or 12 steps and then the condition is done. It can be treated, but it's not cured right away. So this is something that we need to be careful of also. Another myth, if someone relapses, they are a lost cause. Try not to be discouraged if you find yourself in a situation where you yourself are relapsing or somebody else is getting relapsed, because there is always hope. If there is anything that we stress the most with everything that we talk about, is the encouragement of hope. There is hope. There is healing. You can find a way out. You can be free. A lot of it is going to be difficult along the way, especially if you find that you are an addict and you are chemically dependent on certain things, but you can still get help. So we want to encourage you in that way. You are not a lost cause. And if you know somebody who is suffering as an addict, they are not a lost cause. So stay encouraged with that. The last myth that I wanted to cover today, and this is probably like the most important, I think, and the biggest one for me, simply because I always tell everybody I was a triple threat. I was a drinker, a drugger, and a destructor. So I cut myself and I did all sorts of things. And so for me, I always felt like I was bad and that I needed to be punished. That's one of the myths. That's the last myth that I'm going to share, actually. It says people with addiction are bad and need to be punished. This is a myth. The reality is that sometimes after prolonged substance abuse, people with addiction do horrible things. These bad acts are often impossible to understand. They're due to profound change in the brain that compel them to lie, cheat, steal, or worse in order to keep using. While this behavior cannot be condoned, it's important to understand that they do it because they are deeply sick and they need help. Sick people need treatment, not punishment, to go get well. You're not gonna be able to guilt someone into getting the help that they need. You also can't control people who are suffering from addiction, and you can't force them to change. The only thing that you can do, as I mentioned, is love on people and encourage them throughout their journey. You can't help people that don't want to be helped or even feel like they need to be helped. I had to learn that lesson the hard way, not just in myself, but with people around me who I really just cared about and Sometimes you do have to let go of toxic people, but don't give up so easily. You will find that people can surprise you. Now, for the most important part of this entire thing, we wanted to provide resources. Now, we already always talk about the NA, AA, and then they have EA, which is Emotions Anonymous, which I didn't even know that was a thing. So that's why research is so important, guys. I'm so grateful for education and so grateful for the opportunity to get educated in certain areas, particularly life wellness and being able to find the connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit. So super grateful for that. But yeah, Emotions Anonymous is a thing, okay? There's support groups. They can either be faith-based or step-based. Like Celebrate Recovery is a great program that's faith-based, but you also have AA and NA that are based off of the 12 steps. And of course, professional counseling. So those are common resources that we are often, just kind of promoting and making sure that people know that are an option, and you can go and seek those accountabilities and seek those groups for support if need be. But I wanted to share another one from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. This is the SAMHSA's helpline, okay? This is a national toll-free helpline. You can call it from anywhere, whatever state you're in here. We are locally based in the state of Georgia, but you can call this number from anywhere in the world, okay? This number is 1-800-662-HELP or 4357. So that's 1-800-662-4357. That is the national helpline for, that's basically the operational hotline for people who are suffering from addiction. We're going to put all of this information in the links so you can copy it down and you save it for yourself, or you can save it for somebody else who may need it. And we really wanted to give you guys that encouragement for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today and just listening to our vlog and being a supporter of our message of encouragement, sharing this message and passing it on throughout your community, throughout your social media pages, so that people know what we're doing and we can go ahead and continue to spread that love. We love, love, love you. We want to hear your story. Feel free to share in the comment section showing us your love, but also showing your love to each other, because that's what we're here for, right? But if you feel like you want to get a little bit more in depth with your story, or there's a specific topic that you would like us to talk about, then we are totally for it, and we are all ears to share perspectives on different topics that you want to hear about, and really just trying to just keep the variety going. As long as it's about mind, body, and spirit, we will definitely talk about it, but we would also like for you to encourage one another and to spread that love. And we're really big on, you guys have gifts. You were created with a purpose, for a purpose. And I want you to acknowledge that in yourself and be encouraged that love goes a long way. Okay. And you can share that love, and you can share that gift of love with someone, and you never know what that could encourage them to do. Okay. So email us. That's cozycornercrazies@gmail.com. Share your story with us. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to our vlog. We also have our blog, which is a little bit more wordy. We talk about similar topics, but that one is more about our personal experiences versus the professional explanation. It's more wordy, short stories, poems, things like that. You can find that at confessions.life. We thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Don't forget that you are loved. You are appreciated, and we so, so, so love you. Bye.